Hey, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly back at it again with another episode in the How to Dynasty series. If you're new, this is the series where I give you guys the best tips and tricks to improve your overall Dynasty experience, whether you're an online or offline gamer. Today's episode is a very long anticipated episode. This episode we'll be covering what are the best offensive and defensive playbooks in this game to win you guys as many games against the computer in sim. But I can already hear you say, should I believe you, Beastly? Why does your opinion, your facts, your info matter more than every other Joe Schmo on this platform? As you guys can very quickly see, I have over 400 hours spent on this game, and even though this is a bit deceptive because it includes time where I'm just sitting on the menus and playing Ultimate Team and playing Road to the CFB, this doesn't paint the full picture. I can then just go in and show you, bam, my most played game mode is by far Dynasty. I have several hundred bowl wins, almost 100 national champions. Ignore the rivalry wins. For some reason, that's not counting properly. And then over almost 1,000 trophies earned. So a bulk of my time, a bulk of my research, a bulk of my experimentation has been done in Dynasty. I stream almost every single day right here on around 6 o'clock CST. So if you guys want to hop in, have any questions, want to see how these videos get made, the research is done, all that fun stuff, stop by. And also, just in case you want to have any questions and you want to get in contact and I'm not live, join the Discord. It'll also be linked in the description down below. There is a great place to get updates for future videos, notifications for VODs and streams, and general poll voting. So if you guys want to see any videos or things done, stream challenges, etc., that can be done there. But with all that intro out the way, Beastly, what are the best offensive and defensive playbooks in this game? Very quickly, comment question of the day. What do you guys think, before you watch this video, the best offense and defense is? And I also got to give two massive shout outs before I click this A button right here. Extra big shout out to all you guys who've been rocking with me in the streams, recommending me random playbooks to do play testing. I appreciate y'all. There are hundreds of playbooks in this game, lots of stuff to use, and so it's a good way of having a general filter of like what I should prioritize first and second. So I appreciate you guys who stood there and watched me to go insane playing this game. Also, big shout out to my boy Joe, aka the Eagle. Don't ask me why he wanted to be called the Eagle. I asked him for his, plug, and he said, call me the Eagle. So here we go. He is actually the gentleman who discovered the sauce that I am then relaying to you guys, and then I have since used to reverse engineer other playbooks to then give you guys. So huge special shout out to my boy Joe, aka the Eagle. So in the comment question down below, let me know what you guys think the best playbook is, and in your answer, be sure to include an eagle emoji. That way I know you watched this far into the video. But without further ado, the best overall playbook and the best offense and defense, I should say, is easily Mississippi State's veer and shoot on offense and the base 4-3 on defense. I'm going to get a lot of comments, and I'm going to probably go back and forth. So I'm going to try to answer a few of these pre-comments before the video actually gets posted in the video. But basically, why is this playbook the best? Mississippi State's veer and shoot is probably one of the very few playbooks in the game that feeds your entire offense, right? There's a lot of playbooks that either exclusively feed the running backs or exclusively feed your receiver or receivers, or something that's very QB heavy where your receivers are all kind of split and everything's kind of just mid, but your QB has really good stats. This playbook does the absolute best for spreading the ball everywhere. Your tight end will get catches, your receivers will get catches, your running backs will get yards, and obviously your quarterback will have stats. The other really good thing about this playbook is this playbook is universal, whether or not you're using it with a pocket passer, a pure runner, a dual threat, or a backfield creator. I've seen this playbook do wonders with every single style of QB. However, not every playbook in this video can be said for the same thing. Then next we have the base 4-3 defense. This defense is a lot like the Mississippi State offense, where this defense is generally good at the most things. I'm going to have a lot of comments where people are going to be like, no, basically the best defense is the zone pressure 4-2-5 or the man pressure 4-2-5. And those playbooks are very good, and I would have them top 3 as the best playbooks. However, I can't put them at number 1 strictly because if you ever run any 4-2-5, even if it's not the zone pressure or man pressure, the 4-2-5 man, zone, shell, whatever you call, all 4-2-5s get ran on. So if you're playing a Georgia Tech, if you're playing a Notre Dame, if you're playing a North Dakota State, any of those playbooks that have a lot of carries for their backs, you're going to lose the game, or at least have a very high probability of actually losing. Even if you're absolutely team diffing your opponent, you could be a 99 overall with 90 pluses everywhere and lose to a 77 just because they ran the ball extensively. So I can assure you the 4-2-5s, if you're playing a passing offense, like an air raid or a spread, then the 4-2-5s man/zone pressure are not bad. I do agree. But I don't want to sit there and change my defense every single week depending upon my opponent in Sim. So I just think, what is the best general defense? And that is the base 4-3. The base 4-3 doesn't have the best run defense in the game. That belongs to the 3-4 playbooks. However, the 3-4 playbooks get absolutely passed on. I've seen those playbooks like Oregon and whatnot have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards passed on them with absolute bum QB. So you get really good run defense from the 3-4, but you get nothing for pass defense consistently anyways. And then the 4-2-5 is the exact opposite, where you get very consistent pass D, but you kind of get ran all over. And so the base 4-3 is a very good combination of very solid run defense, very solid pass defense, just very solid defense overall. With the right personnel, the right settings, and the right things going your way, this defense can perform very well. And obviously, with missing some key pieces, this defense still performs admirably, even with not the most optimal setup. So easily, in terms of this game, the best general offense and defense is easily Mississippi State's Veer and Shoe as the O and the base 4-3 as the D. So just to give you guys an example of how this offense works with the right personnel and the right settings, here is a season I was using the redacted playbook, aka the Mississippi State Veer and Shoot. We finished 16-0, which last year was not that hard of an accomplishment. If you guys are a longtime member of the channel, you guys would know that last year I had an Oregon 30-year rebuild in which I lost 10 sim games in 30 seasons. Don't believe me, the VODs are still on the channel. Go back and watch that if you care. But 16-0 last year was not that hard to do. This year, going undefeated is very, very, very hard. The sim is very inconsistent. You can lose. You could beat Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon by 60-plus points, but then randomly lose to like Wake Forest or Purdue or UAB. The sim is just very bad. So going undefeated with this playbook, already big thumbs up from me. And as you guys can see, I'm not going to read every single stat on screen, but feel free to pause the video and read them individually. Some highlights do include the fact that we almost averaged 43 points per game, which is nuts. We had almost 700 total points scored. And I think the most impressive stat on the board is we had 8,000 yards of offense this year. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I've seen this playbook do far better. I've seen this playbook with my own two eyeballs. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording, but I've seen this playbook get 9,000 to 10,000 yards in a season. So the fact that we are over the best of the best by 1,000 extra yards is insane, and this isn't even its final form. So yeah, we got averaging a ton of points per game, a ton of yards, led the league in like almost every category. If I were to skip through the stream, you guys can go find it. But we had almost, 6,000? Yeah, 6,000 yards passing, 53 passing touchdowns, 2,200 rushing yards. So whether you're running or you're passing, this playbook is absolutely insane, and I highly, highly, highly advise you to run this playbook. Probably, you want to have the best results when you first start a rebuild. If you're using like a 60 or 50 overall team, maybe even a 70 overall team, it's probably not going to be the best, but just keep trucking with it. I promise you, recruit, get better players, improve your program, develop, and recruit. Eventually, you will have better prospects, you will have better players, and this playbook will just go crazy. The next thing I'm going to show you is I could literally grab like 25 screenshots of my streams, but I really feel like this proves my point perfectly. This is one of the seasons we did end up losing in either the playoffs or the Natty. I forget which game it was, but as you guys can see, we lost 19-14 to Notre Dame. If you look, Notre Dame is slaughtering us in almost every statistical category. Beastly, why are you showing us this? This is a prime example of why you really got to be careful when you're running the 4-2-5 man pressure or zone pressure or any 4-2-5 in general. As you guys can see, 51 carries and 171 yards allowed. Oh, Beastly, your team just sucks. No, I can guarantee you, go back. I was a 99 overall with damn near 90 plus overall players at every single spot on my field. My team was not filled with scrubs. We just got ran on. And as you can see, we were winning going into halftime 14-7, but then we scored 0 points the remainder of the game because we just didn't have the ball to score any points. Literally, we had 8 first downs that game to Notre Dame's 19. And I think the most impressive stat amongst this scoreboard here is that we had 44 total plays and they had 78. They almost doubled our total play count because they were just running us, crazy. 51 rushing attempts is just mad. So 4-2-5 man zone pressure, very good. I will say if you're playing a passing playbook, very good. But if your opponent is either a balanced offense or a running offense, you got to get rid of that playbook or you will just get mashed into oblivion. So just please run any other playbook that's not the 4-2-5 man or zoners, any 4-2-5 against running teams. But if you do just, blanket the playbook, things like this will happen. So do be careful. The next playbook we're going to cover in this video is the Boise State offense. This offense is not as consistent as the Mississippi State playbook is. However, if you are just trying to funnel all of your stats into your quarterback and your wide receiver one, there is no playbook better in this game than the Boise State offense. If you make your number one receiver, your slot receiver in this offense, you will throw to that receiver almost every single play. I am not exaggerating to you. I have a screenshot I'm about to show you, which is a result of what happens if you have the best receiver in the game with the best stats cranking with this playbook and you go 16-0 and you can just put up the most insane numbers humanly possible. So this is the best singular passing / receiving season I've ever seen a receiver put up in any offensive playbook in this game. As you guys can see with Steve General's great name, a redshirt 90 overall sophomore. He ironically wasn't in his final form yet. He did that next year, but I don't have the screenshot for next year, so we're going to have to settle for this screenshot. But as you guys can see, he had almost 2,500 receiving yards and 31 touchdowns. So if you're exclusively trying to win a Heisman for a receiver, or you're just trying to cheese Heismans to increase your program tradition to make your rebuild better, there is no playbook better than the Boise State playbook. Again, just put your number one receiver as your slot receiver, and literally all of your targets will just go to one man. So assuming your receiver is good enough, you will just have week after week after week, player of the game, player of the game, player of the game, in which they will have hundreds of yards receiving. And I think the best I've ever seen is 6 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns in 1 week in terms of receiving. So the Boise playbook, it's not as consistent for winning, for sure. But if you're just trying to pad your stats for a singular receiver, not your entire passing offense, again, just one receiver, and or get Heismans, Boise playbook is insanely good. Another playbook I will put in a similar vein to the Boise playbook, but just not as good, would be the Miami offense. Miami is kind of similar to Boise, where if you have your number one receiver also in your slot, that receiver will get a lot of targets. However, the gap between Boise versus every other playbook at just specifically feeding one receiver or funneling your offense to one player is not as the same. So if I had to give playbook 1 for just funneling to wide receivers, it's Boise. If I have to give a 2, I would pick Miami, but that's kind of it, because most other playbooks like LSU, USC's, they spread the ball a lot, or Tennessee's, they spread the ball around pretty most of the time, so it's pretty apparent that you can't really win a Heisman when your guy has a bunch of general stats. So if you're looking for Heismans and you're looking for very specific stats for one player, Boise passing, number one receiver, put him in a slot for Boise, and you will put up numbers. If you don't want to use Boise's, again, Miami works. Mississippi State actually ironically works the same way. However, again, there's more spread, so that's kind of RNG dependent. But yeah, that's kind of it for just hyper focusing on again, receivers for Heismans and or receiver accolades. Next, let's go over the best running playbooks in the game. Next, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, pistol running is a very meta thing to do in online head-to-head. And it's the same way for Sim. The pistol generic offense was by far the best on average for sheer rushing yards and rushing volume I have used all year. I'm not going to pull up the stats, but just know in a previous stream I had a couple days ago, my RB1 ran for 23/2400 yards and 20 touchdowns. Then the RB2 ran for 1,100 yards and 20 more touchdowns. We had almost 4,000 yards rushing between our backs and our QB. It was absolutely, now is the most consistent for winning? No. If you're looking for winning, I wouldn't use this playbook, but if you're just trying to feed your running back, and again, get your running back a Heisman, or if you spawn on a team or you're taking over a team that has a very good RB, this playbook is not bad for Sim. It's not the best playbook, but again, for winning. But if you're not trying to win, you're just trying to get a Heisman or pad your stats, this playbook is absolutely mental. So the best overall playbook, I would say, is the Mississippi State playbook. The best passing playbook to funnel into a singular receiver is Boise, and the best overall rushing playbook, I would say, is hands down, or for specifically for rushing, would be the generic pistol offense. If you want to get a Heisman for your QB, running back, or receiver, those three playbooks should suffice. Next, quickly, I'm going to rattle off some more playbooks. That way, you guys can jot them down. That way, this video doesn't drag on for too much longer. But in terms of overall winning, the best playbooks I have used that have a very balanced offense for passing and running is obviously Mississippi State at the 1, Nebraska at the 2. Nebraska came in really clutch. I really had low expectations for that playbook, but it was one of the playbooks we went undefeated with very early on. So Nebraska was very solid. Arkansas was another playbook that I went in expecting it to be a very run-heavy playbook. And surprisingly, my QB put up the best QB numbers of all this stuff. So for the Arkansas playbook, I wouldn't put that in the same category as like a passing exclusive playbook or a rushing exclusive playbook. I would say it's like 60-40 pass, 60% pass, 40% run. It's still solid, but it's not what I thought it was, which is cool. A happy surprise. Then we have Notre Dame, which is probably the best overall rushing playbook because Notre Dame actually passes the football, whereas the generic pistol does not. So Notre Dame is a very solid playbook. And then, last honorable mention, I would throw Boise. Boise does kind of funnel their offense to that receiver, like I've mentioned, but the RB still gets some good work. Your tight end also gets some good work. So overall, I would say just around the top 5, I would put Boise there. But realistically, those 4 playbooks I've used have been the most balanced playbooks to use your entire offense. And then in terms of specifically just using your running backs, again, generic pistol is the 1, Notre Dame is number 2, Nebraska is number 3, North Dakota State came in at a sneaky number 4. Their playbook is very bad for your QB. Your QB will throw for less than 20 touchdowns and about 2,000 yards a season, which is pretty bad. But in terms of rushing volume, they get on average 3 to 4 running backs active per game. So North Dakota State was very sneaky. Very sneaky. And then last, we have Tennessee. Honorable mention, just because with the Tennessee playbook, that playbook is super hit or miss. Sometimes your receiver will go nuts, so then it would be in the receiver category, but then sometimes your QB would go nuts, and it would be in the QB category. And then obviously here, sometimes your running back would go nuts with like 30-plus rushing touchdowns, hence why it's in this category. But I really didn't feel confident enough in the Tennessee playbook to put in any one category, so I figured, why not? Just go ahead and slap it here as an honorable mention. So yeah, there I've just popped off about 10 to maybe 15 playbooks in this video. So regardless of what you're looking for, I promise you there's a playbook for you. Again, on defense, very quickly, the base 4-3, highly advised to be your general defense for most simming things. And then if you're specifically going against a passer in sim, I would change to the 4-2-5 man/zone pressure. And if you're going against a crazy running playbook, like example, the ones mentioned in this video, I would swap to any 3-4. But again, if you get really bad luck in sim, like example, I have played Notre Dame in sim, and even though I showed you an example, this video of them having 50-plus rushing attempts on my defense, I've also seen them in sim have games where they ran the ball 20 times. So I wouldn't really bank on the computer always running it down your throat. But if you do, for some reason, have that, itch that they're going to run on you, run any 3-4. If you know they're going to pass heavy on you, run any 4-2-5 zone/man pressure. But if you want to be safe for most problems and most situations, just run the base 4-3. It's very vanilla and very broad, but it does handle the most things, hence why I think overall it's the best defense. Now, last but certainly not least, this is the most important thing I'm about to tell you this entire video. So for all the people who are just skipping through the chapters and not paying attention, they've already clicked into their various sections. They've found their various things. They're going to use those playbooks and get very bad results. And they're going to leave a comment saying, basically, your stuff's not working. Just like last year, your playbooks are nice, but if you don't have the aggro, it's not going to matter. right? Again, like last year, you could run Ohio State, you could have the best players in the game. If you don't have the right aggro, your players aren't going to put up them dummy numbers. So this year, I found from my testing and my friends' testing, shout out to Eagle, that the aggro this year has been scaled dramatically up. So it's no longer as light as it used to be. Example, last year, 75-0 and 100 defense was the preferred aggro. This year, if you try doing that, you will lose 2 to 3 games a year every single year because it's just too crazy. From my experience, 59 aggro this year is a lot like 75 aggro was last year. And the most I would ever move this is like plus or minus 3. If you feel like your quarterback is kind of playing too recklessly, I would drop this down to like a 56 at like the lowest. And if you feel like your quarterback's not taking enough deep shots, he's not pushing the ball down the field, and you're leaving yards, touchdowns on the table, points on the table, I would increase this to maybe 62. But either way, 59 from my testing and my friends' testing and from other people's testing, it's just the most general number where your offense will still be aggressive at times and also conservative at times. You will push the ball downfield and also check down when you need to. So 59 is the sweet spot. But again, move that plus or minus 3 depending on what results you're getting. And then defense this year, last year was set to 100. This year, you really don't want to ever do that. 65 is probably the highest I would ever move this. I would also, again, plus or minus 3 for this. I think 62 is probably the safest I would ever bring this down. You don't want to have your defense too conservative, because if you have a massive lead in the first half, like I've seen my CPU team choke a 40-point lead before, because what happens is you'll score a bunch of points in the first half. In the second half, you'll come out and play, run, punt offense. And then on defense, they'll just run cover 4 every play. And then the CPU will, keep trying to win. And then just like that, you have a 30-point quarter or 35-point fourth quarter in which you lose. So I would highly advise you to keep this at 65 for Sim. But if you feel like your defense is getting a little too aggressive, I drop that down to about a 62. If you feel like your defense is not being aggressive enough, interceptions, picks, sacks, stuff like that, I would increase this to maybe 68, but 65 for my general testing has been the sweet spot. And just to show you guys that, yes, this aggro does matter, I will show you the stats we currently had this year at the very end of the VOD. My QB, I believe this was with the Notre Dame playbook. I might be getting that wrong, but my QB threw for 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 3 picks. My RB1 had 2,000 yards, and this was Notre Dame. Had 2,000 yards, 22 touchdowns. My backup had 1,000 yards, 26 touchdowns. My QB had 700 yards, 7 touchdowns. My third string running back, had 120 yards, 6 touchdowns, absolutely 8, along with a pretty solid passing attack, if I do say so myself. But the thing I want to show you guys is Lionel Kipper. Shout out to GOAT. If you guys were here on stream, this was hilarious. He had 17 interceptions this season. He averaged 1 per game. Dude was an absolute stud, but it's not just him. My other cornerback had 8. This guy had 5, 3, 1. So we had a ton of interceptions. And then for sacks, my edge rusher had 14. My other edge had 10. So like I mentioned, the base 4-3 is very vanilla, but it works the most times against the most offense. So it's very just, again, if you have the right aggressiveness, the right personnel, you can put up some pretty good stats. Here's the TFLs and stuff of that nature. So yeah, that's going to be my playbook video. Let me know down below if I missed anything or if you guys are confused. But yeah, please use these playbooks from my testing and use this aggro. Now that I have officially hammered down the best aggro for offense and defense over the next coming months, because this video did take 2 months to compile, we might find more glitchy playbooks down the road. So if I find more playbooks to add to the list, I will then make a part 2 for this video. But if not, this should help you guys for the entire year. I've been also kind of saving this video because last year when I made my Georgia playbook and my Ohio State playbook videos, EA nerf them immediately afterwards. So I'm hoping this year they don't just immediately get the gut to the playbooks and make them bad again, but we will see. That the ball is in EA's court, obviously. But yeah, I appreciate y'all, and let's get to them shout outs, shall we? As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Give me a follow or sub on Twitch. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you can, please become a member. Shout out to members on screen. Members do get early access to all my videos, whether it's hours early, days early, weeks early, months early access to all my content. Extra privileges midstream for voting various things like challenge runs and much, much more. So if you guys can, please become a member. It does support the channel a ton. Special shout out to all my MVPs on screen. And yeah, guys, I will see you in the next one. Deuces.